What did I learn in the MET program and in creating this portfolio? Let me think about it.
In creating this e-portfolio, several considerations were made. First, I wanted it to be absolutely clear that this process, both the MET program and the creation of this e-portfolio, was in no way linear. When I began the program, I really tried to keep each course compartmentalized, separate, and not contextualized in the program as a whole, as this was how my previous post-secondary learning had occurred. What happened in one course stayed in one course. Of course, by the time I reached even my second term, my third and fourth courses, it was clear that A, this was not necessary, and B, cross-connections were in fact encouraged, maybe even required. When I started seeing the same foundational articles in literature surfacing across courses, that was my aha moment of pulling previous courses ahead with me rather than trying to leave them behind. The deeper I got, the more back and forth pull I felt, and I found myself constantly surrounded by previous coursework, both literally and figuratively, as I tried to find that thing I had read earlier that supported what I was doing now. The more courses I had under my belt, the more challenging it was to discern where any of it had come from, which is the feeling my visual representation of learning represents. Article on online learning. Out of this chaos began to rise an organizational system. I began to implicitly identify themes from each course, which would then help me recall them later. That article on online learning communities, it probably started in 510. Even with this system, by reviewing courses on an ongoing basis, I found myself falling into rabbit holes left, right, and center, following tangents I hadn't intended to, but always coming out on the other side with. I also began applying this tendril system in my employment, able to pull support, evidence, and research directly relevant to my own context with a just-in-time mantra. Worried about marginalized populations? I have some work on that. Considering a new LMS? Let me show you my findings. Thinking about 21st century skills? Boy, do I have ideas. But I could talk about this all day. Let's get more specifically to this e-portfolio. In beginning the construction of this e-portfolio, it was really important to me to represent the chaotic and messy nature of my learning. I did not want a linear metaphor. I was not like a tree developing or the stages of metamorphosis. I was a disaster, in the best way, of ideas, learning, and knowledge. After much deliberation, I eventually settled on the metaphor of an expanding neural network. I landed here because A, it's not linear, B, it shows my learning expanding outward in all directions, and C, it is both literal and figurative. I created an image to represent this expanding neural network using Creative Commons pieces, and then I linked it to each individual course. But I wanted to go further than simply putting the courses in random order on an image. I wanted to show some of what I was experiencing. Some is the key word here. So I pulled out important themes. Themes of teaching and learning, technology, personal growth, and metacognition. More about the metaphor, themes, purpose, and objectives of this portfolio can be found on the About page, which is also where you found this video. As I reflected, I color-coded these ideas, as you will see throughout the e-portfolio. As my reflections spanned over more and more courses, I noted similarities across courses. These connections are highlighted in the interactive image on the landing page as you hover over them. A little unexpectedly, several connections ran across the entire program. These are highlighted below the main interactive image for conciseness. These color-coded elements are for grounding and connection to the metaphor and important themes, but they are not linked. This is intentional, as including all of these as links would become redundant and confusing. The color-coded themes indicate linkages between courses and across the program. These themes may pertain to the course as a whole, or specifically to the artifact being showcased. As it is impossible to make all of my cognitive processes visible, where you see reflections in colored text that does not seem to fit for you, for me it was a salient connection point. My main intention here is to demonstrate that these ideas, concepts, or themes impacted my ways of knowing and understanding. I also included multiple ways to navigate the e-portfolio, again to emphasize the dynamic and fluid processes of my learning in the program and in creating this e-portfolio. As such, you can navigate in 3 ways: using the interactive image on the landing page, using the drop-down menu in the toolbar, and using forward buttons to move from one course to the next. Now that I have given you the quick and dirty of this messy, complex process of learning, let's take a quick look. Imagine I am interested in exploring the teaching and learning theme. First, I can see some teaching and learning themes that overarch the entire program: constructivism, e-learning, the need for discordance, and assessment of non-traditional projects. Then, if I hover over the image, say ETEC 530, I can see one prevalent theme is media literacy. By clicking on the chart, I will be taken to the 530 page, where I can learn more about salient themes through text and audio reflections. I can also explore the artifacts here. From here, I can either go back to the expanding neural network to explore that way, or I can go forward to the next page, or I can use the drop-down menu and select a course to go to. There is a lot hidden away and waiting to be explored in this e-portfolio. For example, not every course that has a media literacy theme has an explanation of media literacy. Again, this is to avoid redundancy. The more you explore the e-portfolio, the more your neural network and your understanding of my learning journey will expand. So go, look around, and spend some time in my brain.